The first time someone died in Madame Morayo Adeibisi's compound, the night did not cry, it did not thunder, it did not warn anyone. The compound sat at the edge of Oke-Afo, a tired neighborhood where houses lean on each other like old men sharing secrets. The building was old with cracked walls and rusted zinc roofing that sang loudly whenever rain fell. During the day, children played football in the dusty yard. Women spread clothes on lines and argued over water. Men returned late from work, sweating and quiet. At exactly midnight, the walls seemed to breathe. The air thickened. Dogs outside whimpered and refused to bark. And inside the main building, Madame Rayo would lie still on her narrow bed, eyes open, waiting for the thing inside her to wake up. Morayo was once a soft woman. People used to say her laughter could calm anger. She married young, loved deeply, and trusted life. But life did not trust her back. Her husband, Kunle Adebisi, died suddenly 5 years earlier, leaving her with two children and a house full of tenants who paid rent like they were doing her a favor. Every month was a struggle. School fees, food, and other expenses. Money never stayed. Morayo often sat by her window at night, staring at the compound her late husband built with pride. Now it mocked her. The tenants complained. The roof leaked. Her children, Tomiwa and Damilola, were brilliant but trapped in a system that rewarded only the rich. Morayo feared only one thing more than hunger: failure. She feared looking into her children's eyes one day and realizing she had ruined their future. On the night the first tenant died, Morayo felt it before it happened. Her fingers twitched, her bones burned, her breath grew heavier. The clock struck 12 a.m. Pain ripped through her body like hot knives. Her spine bent backward. Her mouth stretched wider than humanly possible. Her skin tightened, then shrank. A sound escaped her throat, not a scream, not a cry, something between an animal and a whisper. When the pain stopped, Morayo was no longer a woman. A large black cat stood where she once laid. She has transformed fully into a black cat. Its eyes glowed dull red. Its breath was slow. Its mind was not hers anymore. The cat slipped through the door without opening it. Room 4 belonged to Mr. Charlie, a quiet man who sold phone accessories by the road. He was asleep, dreaming of better days. He never heard the cat climb onto his chest. He never felt the weight pressed down on his spirit. When his eyes opened, he could not scream. Something invisible wrapped around his soul and squeezed. By morning, Mr. Charlie was dead. No wounds, no blood, no explanation. The compound gathered in fear. Morayo stood among them, her hands on her head, acting shocked, crying, shaking, asking questions she already knew the answers to. But deep inside her chest, something dark smiled. The house had tasted blood, and it wanted more. Fear settled in Oke-Afo like money dust. It entered people's lawns without permission and stayed there. After Mr. Charlie's death, tenants stopped greeting each other with ease, suspecting each other. Doors closed earlier than unusual. Laughter reduced. Mothers called their children indoors before sunset. People whispered with their mouths covered, as if the walls themselves were listening. Someone said it was a strange sickness. Others said it was spiritual. A few mentioned witchcraft, then quickly crossed themselves and changed the topic. Morayo heard every whisper. She heard them while washing clothes. She heard them while pretending to cry with others. She heard them even in her sleep. But what scared her most was not the fear in the compound. It was the voice inside her that now spoke clearly. It no longer whispered, it instructed. One soul is not enough, the voice said. Your children's path has opened. You must walk it fully. Morayo tried to resist. She fasted, she prayed, she visited church twice a week. But every midnight, The fire returned. Her bones remembered the pain. Her body remembered the change. And somewhere inside her, a dark hunger grew stronger than guilt. 2 weeks after the burial, her son Tomiwa returned home with his report card. He had come first in his class again. His teachers praised him openly. Scholarships were given to him. Morayo smiled until her face hurt. It all started one night as she washed plates outside. An old woman stopped at her compound. Her name was Iya Lamanke. Everyone in Oke-Afo knew her, but nobody knew about how powerful she was. She sold herbs in the market. Her back was bent. Her eyes were sharp like someone who had seen too much and survived it. They said she only spoke when necessary. I have been watching you. I have been seeing how much you are suffering with your children. I can take you to somewhere that will change your story forever, the old woman said calmly. Morayo's heart skipped. I don't understand. What do you mean? Morayo replied quickly, confused. Iya Lamonke smiled, showing brown broken teeth. You will. Tomorrow night, when the moon is thin, come to the old forest behind Ajegule Hill if you are ready to change your story for good. Before Morayo could ask another question, the woman turned and disappeared into the darkness, walking without sound. Morayo did not sleep that night. She knew that place. Everyone did. The forest behind Ajegule Hill was forbidden. Hunters avoided it. Children were warned never to play near it. They said women entered the forest and came back changed or never returned at all. At midnight the next day, Morayo wrapped a scarf around her head and left her children sleeping. The road was empty. Even crickets were quiet. The moon looked weak, like it did not want to watch. Inside the forest, candles burned without wind. Women stood in a wide circle, all dressed in black wrappers. Young women, old women, rich, poor, all equal here. At the center stood a tall woman with a staff made of twisted wood and bones. I am Queen Mother Ajura, she said, the queen of the dark witches' coven, keeper of path, giver of results. Morayo fell to her knees without knowing why. You want your children to rise and prosper, right? Queen Mother Ajura continued. You want doors to open. You want their destiny to be bright, right? Yes, Morayo cried. I will do anything. Please, I don't want my children to suffer. Queen Mother Ajura's eyes hardened. Anything has a price. The women began to chant. The forest shook, and Morayo felt her faith lock into place like iron chains around her soul. She did not yet understand that once a person enters this path, there is no turning back. The forest went silent after Queen Mother Ajura spoke. Even the candles stopped flickering. Standing straight as if they were afraid to move, Morayo knelt at the center of the circle, her knees sinking into cold earth that smelled of iron and cold rain. The women around her did not blink. Their faces held no pity, no joy. This was not a gathering of madness. This was order. Dark witch's coven. Queen Mother Ajura stepped closer, her staff pressing gently against Morayo's chest, right above her heart. Listen well, she said, her voice calm but heavy. Desperation has brought many women here, but only those who obeyed survived long enough to enjoy what they asked for. Morayo nodded quickly, tears already running down her face. I will obey, she whispered. I swear, I will. Queen Mother Ajura raised one finger. You will obey everything. The rules were spoken slowly, like they were being carved into Morayo's bone. First, every month, one soul must be given. Second, the soul must come from within the walls of the house that carries your name. Outsiders are forbidden. Third, the taking must happen in sleep, without blood, without noise, by 12 a.m. on the dot. Fear must never see your face. Fourth, your children will rise, but you will never rise with them. Your feet will remain tied to the house. You will eat their gifts, you will eat their money, their wealth, but never enjoy their word. I mean, you will never step your feet in their mansion. Fifth, and the Queen Mother Ajura's voice dropped here. If you ever abandon the house before the covenant ends, the fire you escaped will return 7 times hotter. Moriah's mouth trembled. How long is the covenant, Queen Mother? Queen Mother Ajura smiled, slow and cruel, until destiny is satisfied, or until you break. A calabash was brought forward. Inside it was dark liquid, thick and smelling of bitter leaves. Queen Mother Ajura cut Moriah's thumb with a small blade. Blood fell into the calabash. Drink, she commanded. Moriah hesitated for half a breath, then drank. The liquid burned her throat. Her stomach twisted violently. She screamed as pain spread through her veins like ants made of fire. Images flooded her mind. Her children wearing graduation gowns, standing on stages, shaking hands with powerful men. Then the images twisted, faces without eyes, room without doors, shadows crawling across walls. Then the pain stopped. Moriah collapsed onto the ground. Queen Mother Ajura leaned towards her. It is done, she said. The house now knows you. The night would answer you. Moriah returned home before dawn, weak and shaking. The compound looked the same, but it no longer felt empty. The walls watched her. The doors recognized her. When midnight came, the change happened faster. Less pain, more control. She transformed into a big black cat. The black cat moved like it had lived there forever. It chose room 7. A young woman called Bisi, newly married, full of plans. By morning, Bisi did not wake up. People cried louder. Fear became anger. But Moriah cried with them, beat her chest, and shouted at the sky. God, why? Inside her, something hardened. The covenant had begun, and with every soul taken, her children's future became brighter than ever, while her own slowly disappeared into the darkness. Success came quietly at first, like a thief who did not want to wake the house. It came in small signs that made Moriah's heart jump. Tomiwa's teacher called one afternoon, her voice excited. Madam, this your son is becoming more intelligent each day, oh, she said. He thinks differently. We want to move him to a higher class. Moriah was very excited. Weeks later, Damilola's drawings were selected for a state competition. People began to praise Moriah openly. They said her children were carrying divine blessings. Some said God had remembered her family. Moriah smiled and said, It is God, oh. But at night, the house told a different story. The death did not stop. They became regular, like rent. Every month, one tenant slept and did not wake up. Always peaceful, always quiet, always confusing. The compound started to smell strange, like damp walls and old breath. Flowers planted near the gate refused to grow. Even when rain fell, the ground stayed dried, as if the earth itself was avoiding the place. Tenants began to move out. Those who could afford it packed their bags and left without notice. Those who could not stayed, praying silently that the next death would not knock on their door. New tenants still came, attracted by the cheap rent. Moriah reduced the price without caring. She no longer needed the money. The covenant provided in ways cash never could. But something else was happening. At night, Moriah began to hear footsteps when she was awake. Soft movements, scratching sounds inside the walls. She would wake up already standing, her hands blackened with soot, her mouth tasting like metal. Mirrors no longer reflected her clearly. Her eyes looked older, deeper, like someone else was peering through them. Her children noticed the change before she did. Mommy, Damilola asked one evening, why don't you sleep at night? Moriah forced a laugh. Hmm, old age, my dear, she said. But Tomiwa watched her closely, too closely. He had started talking less, thinking more. His dreams were filled with numbers, plans, and strange voices that praised him when he won and mocked him when he rested. He woke up tired but hungry for more. More success, more power, more distance from home. One night, the cat slipped into room 2. The victim this time was Papa Shegun, a retired tailor who used to give Morayo advice when her husband died. He had once paid her rent 6 months in advance to help her children. As the invisible force crushed his breath, something inside Morayo cracked. For the first time, tears fell from the cat's glowing eyes, but the body did not stop. The covenant did not care about memories. By morning, Papa Shegun was dead. That was when the compound truly turned against her. People started whispering, "What is happening?" The same time last month, BC died, and now Papa Shegun? Yet landlady is saying nothing about it. Now wow. Some tenants stopped greeting Morayo. Children ran when she passed. Someone painted a small cross on their door. Another tenant placed charms under their bed. Fear had grown teeth. Morayo knew the truth she had been avoiding. The house was no longer just a house. It was a mouth, and she was feeding it. One of the tenants, Mrs. Shola Adekunle, unlike the others, she refused to pretend that fear was normal. Shola had moved into Morayo's compound after her husband lost his job. She was not rich, but she was observant. She noticed patterns where others saw coincidence. And after the fifth mysterious death, Shola stopped praying only and started thinking. Every person who died had one thing in common. They slept well the night before. No sickness, no argument, no warning, just sleep, and then gone. Shola counted the days. She realized something chilling. The death always happened once every month. That night, Shola sat on her bed and did not sleep. She placed her phone on record mode and kept her lamp on. Her heart beat loudly in her ears. Outside, the compound was too quiet. No radio, no generator, no coughs. When the clock on her phone showed 11:58 p.m., Shola held her breath. At exactly midnight, she heard it, a soft sound, not footsteps, not breathing, something like movement without weight. The door did not open, but the air in the room changed. It became heavier, pressing against her chest. Shola tried to scream, but her voice refused to come out. Her lamp flickered. Her phone fell from the bed. And then she saw the eyes, red, cold, watching her. Shola squeezed her eyes shut and began to pray in a shaky voice. Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. The pressure increased. Her body felt like it was sinking into the mattress. Just when she thought it was over, the weight lifted suddenly. The air returned. The lamp stayed on. And when Shola opened her eyes, she was alone. She did not sleep till morning. By dawn, Shola knew something important. Whatever was killing people could be stopped, even if only for a moment, and that meant it could be exposed. She went straight to Morayo. "Landlady, aren't you seeing what is happening? What do we do to stop this, please?" Shola said quietly, standing at the doorway. Morayo's face froze. "Well, I know what is happening, but I don't know what we can do to fix this. This same thing came for me last night, oh, but God saved me. I didn't die last night," Shola replied. "A big black cat with red eyes. It tried, but my God is the greatest." For the first time in months, Morayo felt fear. Not guilt, not worry, but fear. Her hands shook. She laughed nervously. "You are imagining things, abeg. Which one is black cat? Where?" Shola leaned closer. "Why only tenants? Why never you or your children?" That night, Morayo could not transform. The covenant resisted her. The house groaned. The walls cracked slightly. Queen Mother Ajura's voice echoed in her dream like thunder. "You are losing control," she said. Meanwhile, Shola had already acted. She went to a small church far outside Oke-Afo and spoke to a man known only as Pastor Elijah, a quiet man who prayed like he believed heaven listened. When Pastor Elijah stepped into the compound the next morning, the house reacted. Windows slammed shut and Morayo screamed. The fire had begun. Pastor Elijah did not look like a warrior. He wore simple sandals and a faded white shirt. His Bible was old and the pages soft from years of use. Yet, the moment his foot touched Morayo's compound, the air reacted. A strong wind rushed through the yard, even though the sky was clear. Zinc sheets rattled. A deep groan rose from inside the house like a wounded animal crying from its belly. Morayo felt it instantly. She was in the kitchen when a sharp pain struck her chest. The plate she was holding fell and shattered. Fire spread through her veins, hotter than anything she had felt before. She dropped to her knees and clutching her chest, gasping from breath. No, not now, she whispered. In her mind, Queen Mother Ajura's voice rolled with anger. You allowed that man to enter the house? Stand up! Go and stop him now before it's too late. Outside, tenants gathered as Pastor Elijah stood firmly in the center of the compound. Shola stood beside him, her hands shaking but her eyes firm. This is the house, man of God, she said. People are dying here every month. Pastor Elijah nodded slowly. He raised his Bible and began to pray, his voice steady but powerful. He did not shout. He spoke like a man giving orders he knew would be obeyed. Every evil covenant made in this place, he said, by blood, by fear, by desperation, I command you to catch fire now. Morayo screamed. She stumbled out of the house, her wrapper loose, her hair scattered. The tenants gasped. Some stepped back, others froze. Morayo's eyes were red, not glowing, but swallowed with pain and terror. Stop him, she shouted. Send him away. He will destroy everything. Pastor Elijah turned and looked at her. His eyes were not angry, they were sad. Madam, he said gently, your monthly consumption of humans in this compound is enough. Confess now, he commanded. At that point, a car drove into the compound, a luxury car. Tomiwa and Damilola stepped out. They had returned unannounced, excited to surprise their mother with news of new opportunities, foreign programs, powerful connections, doors opening everywhere. But the moment they saw the crowd and their mother shaking on the ground, their smile disappeared. Mama, Damilola cried, running to her. What is happening? Morayo looked at her children and broke completely. Tears poured down her face. Go inside, she begged. Please don't stay here, go inside. But it was too late. As Pastor Elijah continued praying, the house reacted violently. Cracks spread across the walls. Doors banged open and shut. A terrible smell filled the air. Morayo screamed as if something was tearing her from the inside. Images flooded her mind. Every face she had taken, every breath she had stolen. Tomiwa backed away slowly. Mama, what did you do? He whispered. Morayo opened her mouth to answer, but no words came out. Morayo's body shook violently as Pastor Elijah's prayers filled the compound. The ground beneath her felt hot, as if fire was moving under the soil. Her children stood helpless, watching the woman they knew slowly disappearing behind pain and terror. Tomiwa tried to hold her, but the heat coming from her body pushed him back. Damilola cried loudly, begging God, begging everyone. The tenants stood in a wide circle, fear and anger missing in their eyes. Some already suspected Morayo, but suspicion was nothing compared to what they were about to hear. Confess, Pastor Elijah said calmly, though his voice carried weight. Darkness survives in silence. Speak and let the truth come out. Morayo screamed again. Please, please stop the fire, she cried. I will talk. I will see everything. Her voice cracked as if it was tearing her apart from the inside. She lifted her head slowly and looked at her children. Her eyes were filled with shame. I did it for you, she whispered. Everything I did, it was for you. Tomiwa shook his head. Mama, what are you saying? What did you do? Morayo swallowed hard. The words fought her throat like knives. I made a covenant, she said at last, with witches of the night, with ancient dark powers, she said at last, with witches of the night. They promised me your success, your future, but the price, her voice dropped into a whisper, the price was blood. The compound went silent. What blood? Damilola asked, her voice trembling. Morayo burst into tears. Every month, one life was taken, a tenant, while they were asleep. I became something else, a creature, a big black cat, and I took their breath away. She slapped her chest repeatedly. I didn't want to, but I was desperate. I was afraid you would suffer. I was afraid I would fail you. A loud cry tore through the crowd. It was Charlie's wife. So it was you, she screamed. You killed my husband. Another tenant stepped forward. My sister too, oh. Hey! Another voice shouted. My uncle! So it was you that killed my uncle. The compound exploded with noise, cries, curses, anger. People shouted at Morayo, calling her wicked woman, heartless, a monster hiding behind motherhood. Stones were picked up, then dropped. Rage filled the air like smoke. Tomiwa staggered backward as if someone had hit him. His mind replayed every success, every door that opened too quickly. He remembered the strange dreams, the hunger for more. No, no, he muttered. This can't be true. Mama! Damilola fell to her knees beside her mother, sobbing. Why didn't you tell us? She cried. We would have suffered with you, Mama. We would have managed. We would have waited for God's time. Morayo reached out to touch her, but her hand burned. She screamed again as fire tore through her body. I wanted to protect you, she cried. I wanted you to escape this kind of life. Pastor Elijah raised his hand. The truth has been spoken, he said. But understand this. Every evil covenant demands payment, and the debt is due. Suddenly, the sky darkened. A strong wind swept through the compound. A deep, cold laughter echoed from nowhere and everywhere at once. Queen Mother Ajura had heard Morayo's confession and she was coming to take her. The wind grew colder, sharp like broken glasses against skin. Dust rose from the ground and spun widely, forming small circles that danced around the compound. Candles in nearby houses blew out at once. Even the sun seemed to hide behind thick clouds, turning the afternoon into something close to evening. The tenants pressed against each other in fear. Children cried. Dogs ran away, their tails between their legs. Then the laughter came again, slow, deep, and female. Morayo screamed before anyone else saw her. From the shadow near the old mango tree, Queen Mother Adura appeared. She was no longer dressed like a normal woman. Her wrappers moved as if alive. Her eyes were completely black, with no white at all. Behind her stood other women, dozens of them, some young, some old, some with faces half human, half shadow. When Queen Mother Ajura spoke, her voice did not come from her mouth alone. It came from the ground, the walls, the roof. Morayo Adebisi, she said, stretching the name. You broke the covenant. Morayo crawled backward, crying, I didn't mean to. Please. They forced me to confess. I wanted to keep quiet. Queen Mother Ajura laughed softly. You allowed light to question blood? You allowed prayer to weaken our covenant. You confessed what was sworn to remain silent. She lifted her staff and pointed at Morayo's children. The covenant must be completed. Damilola screamed, Leave us alone! My mother did this, not us. Queen Mother Adura turned slowly and smiled. Children always pay for the sins of their parents, she said calmly. Pastor Elijah stepped forward, raising his Bible. His voice was steady, but his hands trembled slightly. This soul does not belong to you, he said. God's power supersedes every covenant made in darkness. The women hissed loudly. Queen Mother Adura's eyes flashed. This house was sealed with blood long ago, she replied. One final payment remains. Morayo understood. This was the end. She looked at her children, at Tomiwa's shaking hands, at Damilola's tear-stained face, and something inside her settled. For the first time in years, the fear softened. She remembered holding them as babies, promising to protect them with her life. She pushed herself to her feet. Take me, Morayo said. Not them. I am the one who agreed. I'm the one who made the covenant. Queen Mother Ajura studied her carefully. Your life alone is not enough, she said. You belong to the house, to us. Morayo nodded slowly. Then let my death end this. Let the house be free. She turned to the Pastor Elijah. Please, she whispered, finish it. Pastor Elijah closed his eyes and prayed louder than before. Light seems to burst from his voice, pushing back the shadows inch by inch. The women screamed. Queen Mother Ajura shrieked in rage as cracks formed in the ground beneath her feet. Morayo screamed one final time as fire consumed her from within, not burning her skin, but her spirit. She collapsed to the ground. The wind stopped. The shadows vanished. The compound fell silent. Morayo Adebisi was dead, but the covenant was not finished yet. For a long moment, nobody moved. Morayo's body laid in the middle of the compound, still and quiet, like a cloth doll that had been dropped and forgotten. The dust settled slowly. The strange wind disappeared. Tenants stared at the body in silence. Some were crying, some were shaking, others felt nothing at all, their emotions already exhausted by fear. Damilola was the first to scream. She ran to her mother and held her tightly, rocking back and forth. Mama, wake up! Please wake up! She cried. Tomiwa stood a few steps away, frozen. His mind refused to accept what his eyes were seeing. This was the woman who woke them every morning, who scolded them, who prayed for them. Now she was gone, burned from the inside by choices made out of fear and love mixed together. Pastor Elijah knelt beside the body and placed his hand on Morayo's chest. He closed his eyes for a long time. Then he stood up slowly. She is gone, he said softly. But listen to me carefully. Her death alone does not end this. The tenant murmured. What do you mean? Shola asked, fear returning to her voice. Pastor Elijah looked around the compound. This house drank blood for years. Blood changes places. It leaves memories. Spirits do not always leave when the body falls. As if his words summoned it, a deep cracking sound echoed from inside the building. One of the windows shattered. The ground vibrated slightly under their feet. Damilola screamed again and clung to her brother. Tomiwa felt something cold brushed past his leg. The house was angry. That night, nobody slept. Morayo's body was placed inside her room, covered with white cloth. Candles were lit around the compound. Pastor Elijah asked everyone to stay outside, but even with prayer, the house refused to rest. Sounds came from empty rooms, dragging, scratching. At exactly midnight, the front door opened by itself. A shadow stood in the doorway, not Queen Mother Ajura, something else. It was tall and thin, like smoke shaped into a person. Its face kept changing. Now a man, now a woman, now something without eyes. When it spoke, many voices came out at once. The one who made the covenant is gone, it said, but the consequences remain in her lineage. Pastor Elijah stepped forward boldly. The blood will stop tonight, he declared. There will be no more. The blood will stop tonight, he declared. The shadow laughed. Then the children will pay, it said, turning towards Tomiwa and Damilola. At that moment, Damilola felt it clearly. Everything he had gained, the success, the open doors, the praise, it was being pulled away. His head hurt. His chest felt heavy. He fell to his knees. Damilola screamed as her sketchbook burst into flames beside her. Pastor Elijah raised his Bible and shouted prayers with authority. The ground shook violently. The shadow screamed as light pushed against it. This house must be cleansed by fire. The shadow hissed before dissolving into the walls. Silence returned. Pastor Elijah turned to the children. You have a choice, he said gently. Either you leave this house forever and lose everything you gained through blood, or stay, cleanse it fully and rebuild with clean hands. Tomiwa looked at the house that had swallowed his mother, and he understood. Some success is not worth keeping. Morning came without joy. The sun rose over Oke-Afo, but it did not bring warmth. It only revealed the damage of the night before. Cracks ran across the compound walls like scars. The mango tree stood bare, its leaves dry as ash. Inside the house, every room smelled of smoke and old sorrow. Morayo's body was buried before noon, quietly, without drums, without long speeches. No one sang. Even those who hated her did not rejoice. Death had already taken enough. After the burial, Pastor Elijah gathered Tomiwa and Damilola under the mango tree. The tenants watched them from a distance. Everyone knew something important was about to happen. You cannot carry blood blessings into a clean future, Pastor Elijah said gently. If you want peace, you must release everything that came from the covenant. Tomiwa nodded slowly. His face looked older than his years. That same afternoon, his phone began to ring. Calls came one after another. The scholarship offered was withdrawn. The foreign program sent an email saying there had been a review error. A powerful man who once praised him no longer picked his call. By evening, Tomiwa understood. The doors were closing. Inside the house, Damilola cried softly as she watched her paintings fade. Colors peeled off the canvas like dying leaves. Her sketchbook turned blank. The gallery that had promised to host her exhibition sent a short message. We regret to inform you that we no longer need you. Nothing dramatic happened. That was the worst part. Everything simply died. That night, Pastor Elijah led a cleansing prayer. He anointed every door, every wall, every room. He prayed until his voice broke. At midnight, a loud crack echoed through the compound, like something snapping in half. The air became light. For the first time in years, the house felt empty. Not hungry, not angry, just empty. It is done, Pastor Elijah said quietly. But rebuilding will be slow. With heavy heart, Tomiwa and Damilola made a decision. They stayed. They sold their mother's remaining things. They reduced the rent even further and apologized to tenants. Some people forgave them, some did not. But the death stopped. No one died in their sleep again. Fear slowly loosened its grip on the compound. Tomiwa took a small job, fixing phones by the roadside. People laughed at him at first. Damilola began teaching children how to draw using charcoal and old paper. It was not glory, it was not fame, but it was clean. Every night they prayed, not for success, but for peace. And peace slowly answered. 10 years passed like a slow, careful prayer. Oke-Afo changed. New shops appeared. Old faces disappeared. Children who once ran barefoot now walked with purpose. But one thing remained famous in the area, the Adebisi's compound. People still spoke about it, but not in whispers anymore. They spoke of it as a place that survived darkness and chose light. The house still stood, repaired little by little. The cracks were filled. The roof no longer leaked. Flowers finally grew near the gate, stubborn and bright. Tomiwa became known not as a prodigy, but as a man of patience. He never returned to quick success. Instead, he learned slowly. He fixed phones, then radios, then small computers. Over time, people trusted him. One shop became two. Two became a small workshop where young boys learned honest skills. When success finally returned, it came quietly. No strange dreams, no hunger for power, just steady progress. Damilola's art returned too, but differently. It was no longer about fame. She painted stories, faces of women, mothers, broken houses, healing hands. Her work spoke of pain and survivor. One day, a local exhibition displayed her drawings. People cried while looking at them. A newspaper wrote about her, not as a miracle child, but as a voice of truth. They never left the house. They chose to stay, not because they were trapped, but because they understood something deeper. Running away from problems does not solve it. Facing it does. Every year, on the day their mother died, Tomiwa and Damilola cleaned the compound together. They prayed, not long prayers, simple ones. God, keep us clean. God, forgive what we did not know. Let this house never drink blood again. And it never did. The tenants changed. New families came. Children slept peacefully. Death returned to its normal place. Old age, God's timing. The midnight hour became quiet again. No footsteps, no scratching, no hunger in the walls. One evening, Shola Adekunle, older now, with lines on her face, sat with Damilola outside. You know, my child, she said softly, many people would have run away after all this. Damilola nodded. Yes, but if we ran, the story would still be waiting here. Far away, deep in the forgotten places, the name Queen Mother Ajura faded. No more sacrifice fed her power. No more desperate women answered her call. Darkness stabs when people choose truth. And so the story of Morayo Adebisi became a lesson passed quietly from mouth to mouth. That success, bought with blood, will always demand for continuous payment. But above all, people learn this. What is built with clean hands may rise slowly, but it stands forever. Thanks for staying with me till the end of the story. Hope you enjoyed the story. If you do, please don't forget to like, share to anyone who might find this helpful, and also drop a comment. I would love to hear your thoughts. Also subscribe to this channel. Turn on your bell notification so you get notified when an interesting and educating stories like this drops. See you in the next video.